Today's presentation is about momentum, forward movement, and progression. I would like to illustrate how these principles form the basics of 5-element theory from traditional Chinese medicine. And then I want to demonstrate how this pattern was also used in the creation of the world. The exciting part is that the creation pattern expands and completes 5-element theory, and it allows us to incorporate the principles and doctrines of the gospel of Jesus Christ. Now, I need to be careful in presenting this. I am not suggesting that 5-element theory is some type of doctrine. It is nothing more than a graphic organizer, and it allows us to insert principles of natural law into different phases of a cycle. When we understand the pattern, it opens up new opportunities for the Holy Ghost to teach us about the application of gospel principles. I would like to begin this presentation with the scripture found in Doctrine and Covenants, section 121. The Lord asks us a question: how long can rolling waters remain impure? The self-cleaning mechanism of water purifying itself through movement has been recognized for a long time. This is a natural law for water to purify itself, as several natural processes work together to filter, dilute, oxygenate, and cleanse the water as it flows downhill through riverbeds and various plant materials. Movement, progression, and cycles, they're all around us. Consider this. What do spiritual momentum, lift, and cycles all have in common? All 3 principles have been taught by President Russell M. Nelson in the last few years. Consider these quotes from President Russell M. Nelson. Living the doctrine of Christ can produce the most powerful, virtuous cycle, creating spiritual momentum in our lives. And when we love God with all our hearts, He turns our hearts to the well-being of others in a beautiful, virtuous cycle. I love how President Nelson uses the term cycle, momentum, virtuous in the same paragraph. It suggests something powerful can happen in our lives when we keep the movement going in a forward direction. In this diagram, we see 5 elements of the doctrine of Christ. We understand that these principles and ordinances are not intended to be a one-and-done experience, but instead we will revisit each element frequently over the course of our lives. Let's look deeper into this circulation pattern. In ancient China, there was an aphorism that said, there is only one cause of disease, congestion. There is only one cure, circulation. The ancient Chinese determined that all things, without exception, are or should be in a constant state of motion. Modern day understanding of the laws of the universe solidify this view. During this segment, I would like to introduce you to traditional Chinese medicine. I will refer to this as TCM. This will simply be a brief overview to identify some principles of natural law that can be applied to mental, physical, and spiritual health. The ancient Chinese were masterful at observing nature and developing metaphors and patterns to explain the nature of all phenomena. Doctors and scholars of Oriental medicine observed the stars and tides, plants and animals, and the cycles of all natural events, and applied them to the structure and function of the human body. TCM regards the human body and the nature of our surroundings as an ecosystem. All of creation has one universal source and exists in an interconnected system. All things are in constant motion, interacting in a dynamic and energetic way. TCM practitioners seek to discover if root imbalances are creating a dysfunction in the cycle, and then implement a plan to restore balance and harmony in order to resolve the symptoms. The whole person is evaluated in TCM, and balance is achieved by optimizing the interaction of yin and yang, 5 phases of energy transport, qi, blood, and body fluids, and mental, physical, and spiritual health. Now, there are 2 common motifs in TCM. The first is familiar to people all around the world. It is the yin-yang motif. The second motif is becoming more familiar, and it is based on the 5-element theory, and it is represented by a cycle of 5 elements. Now, Chinese medicine is a powerful tool with a holistic approach. It considers the laws of nature, the environment around us, and the natural physical response of the nervous system to our environment to help create functional balance in the body. Chinese medicine sees that we are whole in our body, and we respond to the environment around us. In Chinese medicine, the body we refer to is not only defined by our organs and the systems that it carries, but it is also the home of our mind and spirit. By learning the basics of TCM, we can begin to see how the physical attributes of a complex interior network, circulation and movement, cycles and opposites, they all play a role in our overall health. Now, I need to take a moment to define some terms that will be used in this presentation. In Chinese medicine, our constitution refers to our innate self-regulatory mechanism. In homeopathy, this is called the vital force. In Chinese medicine, it is found in the balance of qi and the free flow of energy through the 5 elements. Now, in scripture, the word constitution means that state of being. It's a particular frame or temperament of the human body that is called our constitution. We speak of a robust constitution or a feeble constitution, the frame or temperament of the mind, affections, or passions. In Doctrine and Covenants, section 89, verse 10, we read that all wholesome herbs God hath ordained for the constitution, nature, and use of man. As I have studied TCM, my eyes have been opened to deeper meanings of principles found in the scriptures. I hope this overview will provide that experience for you as well. Man has been created from the dust of the earth. We are created from the elements of the earth. Therefore, the substance of our bodies is subject to natural law, just as these elements are subject to natural law outside of our bodies. In TCM, this cycle of 5 represents 5 movements of natural transformation. We find the expression of life in these 5 movements. When we consider something as simple as natural movement, we can break it down into 5 phases. First, we begin walking. This is basically a phase where energy expands. Second, we reach top speed. This is the maximum expression of energy. Third, we will maintain that speed for a period of time. And then fourth, we will reduce the speed gradually. And then fifth, we become still, or we enjoy a period of rest. These same 5 phases can be observed in a 24-hour cycle of day and night. First, the sun begins to rise. Light increases gradually. Then we have the sun at midday. This is when we have the brightest light without shadow. And then we have the afternoon sun, where the temperature is maintained for a few hours. And then fourth, the sun begins to set until finally fifth, we have the darkness of night. These 5 phases can also be observed in the yearly cycle of the seasons. First, we have spring, where there is a budding of new life. And then summer, when plant growth accelerates in the heat. And then later summer and early fall, plants are producing for a season. And then fourth, in late fall, the plants go dormant in preparation for winter. And then fifth, in winter, plant life is dormant or in a state of rest. The ancient Chinese put these 5 phases of movement into their 5-element theory. Here we see the 5 phases. Spring, when we see the budding of new life, moving into summer, where plant life reaches a maximum state of growth, and then late summer, where the maximum growth of plant life is maintained for a period of time. And then fall, plant life slows production and it prepares to go into a state of rest. And then winter, plant life is dormant for a season. These 5 elements of Chinese medicine are related to the 5 movements of natural transformation. The 5 elements in nature that participate in this cycle are wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. Each of the 5 elements represent a characteristic of nature. The Chinese believe that these elements govern our organ function and emotions. The elements also link us to the larger cycles of seasons and life. The theory of the 5 elements or phases is a concept developed in ancient Chinese philosophy. 5 elements refer to the belief that all phenomena in the universe are products of the movement and mutation of these 5 qualities: wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. These 5 elements interact as 5 interlocking circles where every organ system is in some way connected to every other organ system, both in a clockwise and counterclockwise fashion. They are in a state of constant motion and change, always interacting one with another. An example of the interaction would be called the generation cycle. This is around the outer edge of this cycle, where we recognize that wood generates fire. All vegetation gives life to fire. Then fire can burn, turn to ash, and this becomes earth. Earth generates a variety of metal substances. Metal sweats, and the condensation occurring on metal surfaces generates water. Water is required for the growth of new vegetation or wood. Now there is also a control cycle through the interior of the circle. Each element can keep another element in check. For example, water can be used to control fire, and fire can be used to soften and shape metal. Metal can be formed into a tool to work with wood. Wood or vegetation can be used to protect the earth from erosion, and earth can be used to build dams to control water. Now we have seen two energy pathways in the 5-element flowchart. The or controlling cycle is on the inside, and it's primarily yin or female in nature. The shang or generating cycle is in the outer part of the circle, and it is primarily yang or male in nature. The cycle of generation can also become a cycle of destruction. When used as a graphic organizer, we will find layers upon layers of meaning within the elements of this cycle. We find these layers by remembering the location of each of the elements within the cycle. And then we can build layers of meaning about each location. So, for example, these two illustrations show that winter and water are in the same location. Therefore, winter is connected to the water element. In a similar manner, fire is connected to the summer element. We could go through each element and find the same type of connection. The 5 elements represent a continuous cycle of birth, growth, productivity, death, and rejuvenation or rebirth. Wood is connected with birth and springtime. Fire is connected with the season of summer, when you see an explosion of growth in the plant kingdom. Earth is connected with later summer, when plants are in their productivity phase. Metal represents the autumn of the year, a time to gather in the final harvest in preparation for winter. The water element represents winter, a time to slow down. The energy of plant life occurs at a deeper level as plants go dormant and prepare for the coming spring. The Chinese 5-element system is a detailed look at the individual phases in the 5-element cycle and how these elements interact. Each of the elements are also connected to an organ in the body. We will go to that in a moment, but first we need to consider how cycles work inside the body. How do cycles work within the physical body? Well, the expression of life is found in the process of regeneration, adaptability, and vitality. Consider the pattern of cycles in the human body. Life is found in the movement through multiple cycles. How many cycles can you think of in the human body? Well, here's an example of just 3. The circulatory system is a cycle. The respiratory system is a cycle. And even in the tiniest cells, we find energy production occurs in cycles. One has been called the Krebs cycle. Another one is the ATP cycle. Within these cycles, the body demonstrates its own innate intelligence to keep things moving through the cycle. Neuroscientist Candace Pert explains it this way. With information added to the process, we see that there is an intelligence running things. It's not a matter of energy acting on matter to create behavior, but of intelligence in the form of information running all systems and creating behavior. Physiologist Walter Buchanan was also onto this when he referred to the wisdom of the body. And today, certain manipulative healers, such as chiropractors, will refer to it as the body's innate intelligence. He explained further, the coordinated physiological processes which maintain most of the steady states in the organism are so complex and so peculiar to living things, involving as they may the brain and the nerves, the heart, lungs, kidneys, and spleen, all working cooperatively, that I've suggested a special designation for these states, homeostasis. Now the terms homeostasis and innate intelligence are now used prevalently in health and wellness discussions. Now the fascinating part about 5-element model is it allows us to consider how it's possible for the conscious mind to enter the network and play a deliberate part. Our agency, our choices, what we choose to think about and believe will make an impact on the cycle. We understand that medical doctors study the principles of health and they make informed choices about interacting with these cycles. Well, we also recognize that our personal choices can influence the cycle towards better health or disease. The more we learn about our spiritual, physical, and mental health, the more we learn about the natural cycles of the elements, the better choices we will be able to make. Okay, so next we're going to look at how the vital organs and the bowel structures are identified in 5-element theory. Each of these organs are found in the torso region of the body. What are these organs? And are they capable of producing emotion and feeling? Well, if someone asks you, where in the body do you feel that? How frequently do you point to the torso region of your body? So there are 5 vital organs in the torso region. They are the heart, lung, kidney, liver, and spleen/pancreas. The spleen and the pancreas are 2 separate organs, but in Chinese medicine, the spleen is identified, but many attributes of the pancreas are attributed to the spleen. So the bowels are hollow organs. Their function is to store and hold contents that are secreted by the other organs. The 5 bowels are the stomach, small intestine, large intestine, gallbladder, and urinary bladder. Now, traditional Chinese medicine has long emphasized the importance of the digestive system in maintaining health and preventing disease. They view the gut as the root of vitality and the foundation of wellness. Many of these organs and bowel structures are directly linked to the digestive system. All right, so now let's expand the energy transformation cycle to the vital organs and bowel structures of the body. So remember, the cells of all living things are going through this cycle on a continuous basis, only at different rates. The health of each individual cell of the human body is determined by the health and balance of the current and preceding cycles. How long can rolling waters remain impure? Well, the key to health is circulation, circulation, circulation. So now I'm going to be giving you a lot of information. This is not to overwhelm, but to help you see the big picture of the network. I will be repeating this information often in the next presentation. So for today, I would simply ask you to just take in the 40,000 foot view of the big picture with an understanding that I will be coming back and looking at the specific details again in the future. So Qi in ancient Chinese philosophy is the life force or the bioenergy of a person. For a person to have good health, the Qi must circulate and animate the different facets of human existence with balance. Each of the 5 elements are connected to organs in the physical body. These internal organs include 5 vital organs in the torso region and 5 bowel organs. The 5 vital organs are yin, or female in nature, and the 5 bowel structures are yang, or male in nature. When these vital organs and bowel structures function properly, they facilitate a free flow of qi throughout the cycle. Now, I said earlier to remember the position of each of the elements. So from this point forward, as I show this diagram, the position matters. It connects back to the energy transformation cycle that we have already discussed. So fire is associated with the heart. The heart is the grand master of all the 5 vital organs and bowels. When the heart is strong and blood is ample, a person will be full of vigor and have a strong constitution. This state of the heart is reflected in the face. With abundant blood and a strong heart, the complexion is rosy and lustrous. The state of the heart and blood are reflected in the mental activities and emotional state. The heart houses the spirit. Mental activity and consciousness reside in the heart. The earth element is connected with the vital organ spleen. The spleen is involved with transformation and transportation. The flesh of the entire body depends on the nourishing capacity of the spleen. Impairment in this organ leads to lack of strength and wilting weakness of the limbs. The spleen influences our capacity for thinking, studying, memorizing, and concentration. Excessive study and mental work will weaken the spleen. The spleen is paired with the stomach as the connected bowel structure. The spleen and stomach rely on each other to perform their respective functions of digestion and absorption. The stomach receives and digests foods. Dysfunction here can cause belching, hiccups, nausea, and vomiting. In ancient Chinese medicine, The function of both the spleen and the pancreas are grouped under the spleen. Next we have the metal element. This is represented by the organ of the lungs. The lungs refer to our ability to have respiration. The lungs will maintain the health of the blood. It gives energy to the voice. It opens to the nose, and the lungs receive the breath of life. It is the most physical and material part of a human being's soul. Lungs are paired with the large intestine. Therefore, coughs and asthma may be treated by clearing the large intestine. Constipation may be treated by strengthening the lungs. The water element is connected with the kidneys. The kidneys are the foundation of yin and yang for all the other elements. They govern reproduction, birth, growth, and development. Kidney essence produces marrow for the bones and the brain. In TCM, marrow is the substance that comprises the matrix of the bones, brain, and spinal cord. The kidneys govern water metabolism. The ears are physiologically related to the kidneys, which depend on them for nourishment. Kidney strength will determine our willpower. Strong kidneys provide a mind focused on goals and enable one to pursue goals in a single-minded way. The kidneys open to the ears, and they rule our ears and hearing. In the creation, the water above the firmament was separated from the water below the firmament. In a similar way, the water element can be divided into the influence of heaven, which is our divine identity and pre-heavenly chi or spiritual DNA, and the mortal identity and physical DNA that we obtain here on earth. The terms loins and reins are used in Scripture. Reins in the Bible refers to the kidneys, which were considered the seat of our desires and affections. Metaphorically, it is used to represent the whole moral constitution of a person, often mentioned alongside the heart. Kidneys are paired with the urinary bladder to form a vital organ and bowel relationship. Wood is connected to the liver. The liver regulates blood volume according to physical activity and demand. The liver maintains a smooth flow of qi through the cycle. Relaxed circulation produces a calm, rational state of mind. Ease of digestion. If this function is impaired, it can give rise to emotional frustration, depression, or anger and digestive dysfunction. Liver blood nourishes the tendons to maintain flexibility and range of motion. The liver opens to the eyes. Deficiency in the liver can cause blurred vision. The liver is paired with the gallbladder as a vital organ and bowel relationship. The liver controls the sinews and the tendons. Now here's another diagram of 5-element theory. We see how each of the 5 elements are connected to organs in the physical body. We also see how each of the vital organs are paired with a bowel structure. In Chinese medical theory, each organ system and bowel have a multitude of physiological and emotional characteristics. Now the pericardium, the protective covering around the heart, is neither yin or yang. It is a protector of the heart. The pericardium is paired with the Sun Jiao. The Sun Jiao in TCM is an irrigation official who builds waterways in conjunction with the kidneys, lungs, and spleen. Sun Jiao means triple burner. The upper burner relates to the organs of the heart and lungs in the thorax and the breathing function. Therefore, it relates to heaven. The middle burner relates to the stomach, spleen, liver, and the digesting function. Therefore, it belongs to human. The lower burner relates to the organs below the abdomen, the kidneys, the bladder, the urogenital functions. Therefore, it belongs to earth. If the triple burner is functioning well, then the organs are in harmony. According to TCM, the triple burner is essential in transporting fluids throughout the body, removing itching and heat, treating swellings, and overcoming problems with the various organs. Qi, essence, and Shen are terms the ancient Chinese gave to the energetic force that they observed in the body. A candle metaphor helps us understand the difference between these terms. The nature of Qi is complex. In traditional Chinese medicine, the ancients recognized that energy from a divine source contributed to the formation of Qi. Now, as Latter-day Saints, we would recognize the divine source of energy as the light of Christ that gives light to all things. However, the complexities of Qi in ancient Chinese medicine are such that it cannot be equated with the light of Christ or any other gospel principle. The ancients also understood that Qi, or energy, was constantly being generated and replenished in the living soul. Therefore, even though the light of Christ and the Holy Ghost will have an influence on the quality of energy or Qi, our personal choices, our diet, environment, and genetic predispositions will also have an influence. Now, there are 5 types of Qi in the body. Please note that this is very different from the New Age definition of energy. There's primary Qi. This is derived from congenital essence, or our inherited predispositions from our parents. There's pectoral Qi. This is formed when Qi is inhaled by the lungs and is then combined with the food from the energy that we get from food. There's nutritive Qi. This is produced by the spleen and stomach, and it circulates with the blood to provide nourishment. There's defensive Qi. It circulates outside the vessels to defend the body against exterior pathogens such as cold and flu viruses. It also controls the opening and closing of the pores, moistens the skin and hair, and readjusts our body temperature. There's vital or true Qi. This is a refined energy that circulates in the meridians and nourishes the organs. Ancient health philosophy suggests that abundant Qi is the basis of good health, and disease processes always involve a dysfunction of Qi. Qi is formed after birth and can be replenished daily with herbs, proper rest, diet, and exercise. As we look at this candle metaphor, we see that Qi is the energetic living activity of the candle. Eventually, it will burn itself out, but it can be made to burn longer if the right wax and materials are added as it burns. Essence. In TCM, essence is a precious substance that is the basis of our body. The term occurs in TCM textbooks in 3 different contexts. There's pre-heavenly essence. This is our inherited constitution from our parents. Western medicine calls our congenital predispositions, or Western medicine will call this the congenital predispositions that are coded in our DNA. Then there's post-heavenly essence. This is extracted from what we eat, drink, and breathe. Then there's kidney essence. This is a more specific kind of vital substance derived from both pre-heavenly and post-heavenly essence. Now there's a difference between chi and essence in the body. Essence is primarily inherited from our parents, while chi is formed after birth. Essence is fluid-like. Chi is energy-like. Essence resides mostly in the kidneys. Chi is everywhere. Essence is not easily replenished, but chi can be replenished daily with acupuncture, herbs, proper rest, and exercise. Essence changes slowly over long periods of time, while chi moves and changes quickly. As we look at this candle metaphor, we see that essence can be likened to the wax and the wick. It is made up of both our spiritual and physical elements before the flame came into existence. The third element is Shen. This is your countenance. This is the light that radiates from you. One of the heart's most important functions is to house the Shen. This is equivalent to the spirit or the soul, and it also encompasses the mind. Not surprisingly, the Shen represents one of the most complex concepts within Chinese medicine. It is the source of thought, focus, planning, and intelligence. All of our mental activity and intention are a manifestation of the Shen, which resides in the heart. As we look at this candle metaphor, Shen is the glowing light that radiates from the candle. This depends on the quality of the materials that were used in the wax and the wick. So let's consider how these three elements might compare to some principles of the gospel. First, Qi, or the energetic living activity of the candle, can be related to the movement, momentum, and cellular energy impacted by our genetics and life choices. Obedience to eternal law will add fuel to the flame. Essence can be related to our intelligence, or in scriptural language, light and truth, the wax and the wick of the candle. This is made up of both physical and spiritual elements before the flame came into existence. Shen is the glowing light that radiates from the candle. This can be related to our countenance. The light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single to the glory of God, the whole body shall be full of light. In Chinese medicine, every organ has its functions or responsibilities. These are not all physical. They are psychological and spiritual as well. The heart has special meaning in TCM, as it is seen to be the ruler of all the other organs, and when the body is healthy and balanced, it is a kind and benevolent leader. The way Chinese medicine explains the human being is complex, and yet it seems completely logical. The ideas and theories were developed at a time when people lived in complete harmony with the world around them. Life revolved around nature and the ebb and flow of the seasons. People practiced preventative medicine, always striving for balance and thus health. The 5 elements are also connected with our emotions. The influence of primary qi, nutritive qi, and pectoral qi are all seen in the energy generation cycle. The 5 organs, the liver, heart, spleen, lung, kidney are at the center of a web of correspondence and extend their influence to the tissues and regions of the body. This energy is fluid. It is in a constant state of transformation and movement. While difficult to explain, the symbols and metaphors used by the ancient Chinese provide a workable framework where we can see correlations and implement behavioral, nutritional, and herbal therapies to encourage healthy energy flow throughout the energy cycle. Arguably, no medical system assigns the heart greater importance than the Chinese medicine, which views the heart as the supreme ruler, responsible for maintaining internal peace and harmony over the entire bodily kingdom. Acting as a kind and benevolent leader, the heart is the force that motivates and coordinates all activity, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. Ancient medical Chinese texts recognize that the heart is sovereign over all organs and represents the consciousness of one's being. It is our heart that is ultimately responsible for enabling our intelligence, wisdom, and spiritual transformation. In Chinese medical theory, the heart is at the center of perception itself. Therefore, self-awareness, the ability to connect with others, to have meaningful relationships, and living a fulfilling, happy life is the essence of a happy, healthy heart. The path to joy is living with wisdom and purpose, seeking truth in all things, and having meaningful connections to ourselves, to others, and with God. One of the heart's most important functions is to house the Shen, which is equivalent to our spirit or soul, but it also encompasses the mind. All of our mental activity and intention are a manifestation of the Shen, which resides in the heart. Indeed, the Shen is responsible for processing all incoming sensory information and intuitive information, as well as supervising the body-mind reaction to it. This means that the heart not only dominates the physical blood circulation of the body, but it also guides our consciousness and mental clarity, memory and intellect, and emotional balance, all fundamental to our well-being. Put another way, the heart not only keeps us alive, but it allows that life to have meaning, depth, and purpose. From this perspective, the heart is responsible for organizing and integrating the mind, body, spirit that ultimately defines who we are as a person. Physically, it ensures that essential substances are delivered to all parts of our body while carrying away waste and unwanted carbon dioxide. In addition, the heart also functions as the intersection between the psychological and physical facets of a person, where our emotions are assimilated. In this sense, the heart is truly the center of each of us as human beings. It's the link between our mind and the physical body. The emotion of the heart is joy. When we experience this wonderful emotion honestly, we are feeding our hearts. When there is a lack of joy in our lives, the heart is the most affected. When heart energy is depleted, we can suffer from insomnia and dream-disturbed sleep, and inability to think clearly, forgetfulness, concentration problems, and poor memories. In extreme cases, we see manic behavior or even coma. Living a joyful life and expressing emotions freely is an excellent way to keep our heart energy full and our body healthy. Phew! Now that's a lot of information. TCM is complex. But I'm hoping that from the 40,000-foot view, I hope you can see how all the body systems are interacting with each other in a dynamic network of many moving parts and cycles. Now I would like to briefly demonstrate how 5-element theory from TCM compares with the creation pattern. In the creation, we see the following 5 phases. First, day 1, there is an organization of matter, and light is divided from darkness. Day 2, there is a firmament to divide the waters below the heavens from the waters above the heavens. In day 3, the waters are separated from the dry land, and seeds for all types of vegetation are planted in the earth. On day 4, lights are placed in the heaven, the sun, the moon, and the stars. And on day 5, the earth brings forth animal life, fish, fowl, and all creeping things. When we overlay the creation pattern onto 5-element theory, we can see a similar transfer of energy in each phase of the creation. Day 1 is connected to the metal element. The elements were unorganized matter when the gods organized the matter into an earth, and the gods said, "Let there be light." Light was essential for the life-giving processes that continued throughout the remainder of the creation. Day 2 is connected to the water element. The waters were separated on the second day with a firmament in the heavens. There was a division between the waters below the firmament and the waters above the firmament. Day 3 is connected to the wood element, when seeds were planted for all types of vegetation to fill the earth. Day 4 is connected with the fire element. The fire of the sun, the light of the moon and stars were placed in the heavens on the 4th day. Day 5 is connected to the earth element and represents the 5th phase of creation. During this phase, the Creator establishes fish, fowl, and animal life and commands these to multiply in the perpetual replenishment of the earth with animal life. On day 6, the 6th phase of the creation is a repeat of the first phase of the cycle. Instead of the elements being organized to create an earth, this time the elements are organized to create a human body. Phase 6 is connected with the metal element. The metal element is also connected to the lung. After the elements were organized into a body for man, God breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. The gears were set in motion, the cycles began to circulate on their own power, and man became a living soul. And then the cycle begins again. The creation pattern expands and completes 5-element theory because it includes the Creator. The creation of the earth, the creation of our souls, could not happen without the divine power of an all-knowing Creator. Consider the impact of including the Lord's recommendation in this pattern. The Lord gave instructions for building the temple in Doctrine and Covenants section 94. The same principle can be applied to the building of the temple of our bodies. The Lord says in section 94, "Behold, it must be done according to the pattern which I have given unto you, and it shall be wholly dedicated unto the Lord from the foundation, according to the order of the priesthood. As you learn about this creation pattern, keep this question in the back of your mind. How can I keep myself wholly dedicated unto the Lord as I apply this pattern? If we can keep ourselves wholly dedicated to the Lord as we follow and promote this cycle, we will gain spiritual momentum. The grace of God, the power of the atoning sacrifice of Jesus Christ, will provide the lift that brings us closer to God, to add light and truth to our hearts. This happens step by step, line upon line. Now, this has been a lot of information. If this subject interests you, I invite you to check out the blog post under Body, Mind, and Spirit. In each of these posts, I will share ideas about how the creation pattern can be applied to the health of the body, to the health of the mind, and then to the health of the spirit.